Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Phil and welcome to Grounded, the series which looks at airlines of yesteryear. This episode will take a look at Royal Airlines of Canada. The roots of Royal go back to 1979 with the formation of Conifair Aviation, incorporated by Michel Leblanc and business partners. Conifer were based in Quebec and were a bit of a mixed bag of an operation. They specialised in bug spraying, specifically against the budworm, which spreads through the forests, eating the buds from the trees and if left unchecked would destroy the forests themselves. The tanks which stored the insecticide used against the budworms were cylindrical, so the Lockheed constellations used were nicknamed the budworm bombers. Conifer would also provide aerial waterbombing services to fight forest fires across the province of Quebec, as well as provide maintenance services for the authority's own waterbombing fleet. The name Conifer is also a play on the word conifer, the main type of tree found in the boreal forest which the company was trying to protect. Apparently it was also the synonym for conifer spraying by air. Conifer also provided a variety of charter services, be it flying hunters out into the wilderness, aerial survey flights for the authorities, or just ad hoc cargo flights using a small fleet of Lockheed Constellations, Douglas DC-4 and DC-6 aircraft. Conifer would see changes take place in the mid to late 1980s, leading to a change in direction. On the 6th of January 1992, Royal Aviation was formed as the new parent company of Conifer. At this time, Royal Airlines was established and headquartered in Montreal. Royal Airlines would be a dedicated charter airline using jet aircraft instead of the ageing propeller fleet of Conifer. The first Royal Airlines aircraft was a Boeing 727-200 series trijet and made the airline's inaugural flight from Toronto to Vancouver on April 29th. A second 727 joined the fleet in November, with a third arriving in December. Things began to move quickly for the new airline, with it acquiring a wide-bodied Lockheed L-1011 TriStar in April 1993. The former Air Canada aircraft would be used to operate Royal's first services to Europe. A second TriStar would join the fleet later in the year, along with two more 727s as Royal grew bigger and bigger. The Royal Airlines livery was relatively simple, yet rather classy. It was a predominantly white fuselage with large Royal titles near the front. The tail was blue, quite possibly royal blue, with gold trim which ran down onto the rear portion of the fuselage. The Royal logo featured prominently on the tail to complete the smart livery. The Canadian charter market had three main players: Sky Service, Canada 3000 and Royal. All had partnerships with tour operators. Sunquest was the largest of Royal's customers. However, Royal would go on to establish its own tour operations division, Royal Vacations, in the mid-90s as Royal Aviation grew. In contrast to the larger Sky Service and Canada 3000, Royal was full service, or, in their own words, an all-inclusive service airline. Passengers would be offered a complimentary cocktail, wine with their dinner, with beer and liquor available during the flight. Headsets were also free of charge, which, while this may be normal now, was certainly something that charter airlines charged for back then. It was this level of service which made Royal stand out from the competition and helped the airline go from strength to strength. 1994 would see the introduction of yet more aircraft, with the airline now having a combined fleet of 9, consisting of 7 Boeing 727s and 2 TriStars operating from bases in Montreal, Toronto, Ottawa and Quebec City. As a charter airline, Royal would serve a variety of destinations on behalf of various travel companies. Most destinations were in warmer climates such as Florida, Cuba and the Caribbean. As Royal expanded, it briefly took on 2 fly-by-wire Airbus A320s. These were hired in between December 1995 and April 1996. One of these was from the UK's Excalibur Airways, which at the time was making its fateful switch from short-haul to long-haul flying. 1997 was a big year for Royal. In August, the airline acquired Conifer Cargo, an Ontario-based company which operated 6 Boeing 737-200s. Conifer Cargo specialised in providing cargo services for couriers and freight forwarders and served 12 cities across Canada. Initially, the airline was going to retain the Conifer Cargo name, but it would soon be dropped and replaced by Royal Cargo instead. 4 of the Conifer fleet were outright freight aircraft, however 2 could be reconfigured from a cargo layout to a passenger configuration capable of seating 120 passengers. These 2 aircraft were transferred to a new airline, Royal Express, who were based out of Montreal. The formation of this separate airline was a workaround of a local rule which prohibited scheduled operations to be undertaken by a charter airline. Royal Express would also handle seat-only reservations from travel agencies across Canada and the United States as the airline started to venture into the scheduled market. 1997 would also see a fleet renewal program begin. The aging 727s would be replaced by new, fuel-efficient Boeing 757s, with the old TriStars being phased out in favour of the longer-range Airbus A310. The Boeing 727s were sold to a company in Miami, however they remained in the Royal fleet on lease until their replacements were phased in. The TriStar fleet, which had been expanded to 3 aircraft, was phased out during the year. 2 were leased to Chile Inter Airlines, while a third was scrapped. Their replacements, the Airbus A310-300s, arrived in April, May and July, with a 4th scheduled to arrive the following year. The first Boeing 757-200 joined the fleet in March 1998, with 2 more due to arrive that October. In May 1998, Signature Vacations, part of the First Choice Holidays Group, agreed to acquire the Royal Vacations division for an undisclosed sum. This was a major coup for Royal, as Signature had been aligned with rival airline Canada 3000 and was currently giving them 70% of their business. Signature's parent company, First Choice, and their in-house airline, Air 2000, helped launch Canada 3000 in the late 1980s and had a very strong business partnership. The announcement was both a blow to Canada 3000 and a huge boost to Royal, who now expected to do over $200 million in business with the company. As part of the long-standing relationship between Canada 3000 and Air 2000, a number of aircraft would head across the Atlantic to join the Canada 3000 fleet during the winter season. However, due to the new agreement, those aircraft would now join the Royal fleet instead. 3 Boeing 757s were leased from Air 2000 to take the Royal 757 fleet to 5 aircraft. Spring 1999 would see several changes. The 757s leased from Air 2000 headed back home to the UK, and Royal began to move into the scheduled market. This was primarily in response to the impending merger between Canada's 2 largest airlines, Air Canada and Canadian. Royal was given designated carrier status in April, which allowed it to offer scheduled flights to France and the United Kingdom. Therefore, Royal Airlines was now able to operate scheduled flights from Calgary, Edmonton, Montreal, Toronto and Winnipeg to Birmingham, Bristol, Glasgow, London and Manchester, with additional services from Toronto and Montreal to Paris. Domestically, Royal began to offer scheduled services between Toronto, Montreal, Ottawa, Winnipeg, Halifax and Vancouver. These flights were during peak times rather than a high-frequency service, and they had a much lower price than the competition, around 80% lower in fact. The year 2000 saw Royal pick up 4 Boeing 737-200s to join its existing fleet of 5 as the airline announced it was doubling its scheduled domestic flights. The airline was aiming to significantly strengthen its position in eastern Canada and fight off competition from the newly launched low-fare airline CanJet. As well as increasing the frequency of flights on existing routes, Royal would add daily services between Toronto, Ottawa, Halifax and Winnipeg. Royal also announced that the next year would see new routes from Toronto to Edmonton and Calgary and additional frequencies from Toronto to St. John's, Thunder Bay and Vancouver. The introduction of the domestic route network was in contrast to the 1999 autumn shareholders meeting, where Chief Executive Michel LeBlanc stated that Royal had no intention of becoming a major scheduled carrier, and that the introduction of domestic services was to increase demand of its own vacation charter flights. In reality, this restructuring was vital for Royal, as the company had been on shaky ground for a while, either making a small loss or a small profit each year, and that wasn't particularly sustainable. 1999 was a tough year for the company, as the share price took a loss of 73 cents per share. Then in early 2000 it was forced to write off its 66.7% stake in Royal Le Club, a hotel and resort management company that it had launched in 1997, which had knocked a further 12 cents per share off the company value. The restructuring was a success, however. First quarter revenues had increased to $90.6 million, with Royal making an operating profit of $2.4 million compared to a loss of $1.8 million for the same quarter the year before. This change was seen as a direct result of the airline's quick move into the domestic market, as well as the restructuring of Royal Cargo, which had seen that division's quarterly revenue increase by 23% to $14.7 million. In January 2001 it was announced that Canada 3000 would be acquiring Royal in an all-stock deal worth around $82 million. The announcement was a surprise to some, with one analyst accusing Canada 3000 of pulling a bait-and-switch on its shareholders. The Canada 3000 share price dropped 30 cents when the news broke, which effectively shaved 3% off the value of the deal. Royal's share price rocketed by over $1 to close at $3.65. Canada 3000 offered one share for every 2.5 shares of Royal, of which Michel LeBlanc owned around 45% of the stock. Royal and Canada 3000 were a reasonably good fit. Canada 3000 primarily operated international medium and long-haul flights, with some domestic routes. Royal had a very strong domestic presence in eastern Canada, with very little overlap. It was estimated that the combined airline would have a revenue of over $1 billion, 4,000 employees, and a fleet of 35 aircraft. Even with the merger in the works, Royal continued to grow as it took delivery of 3 more Boeing 737s earlier in the year. Canada 3000 also acquired CanJet and worked to integrate them at the same time. Both Royal and CanJet became divisions within Canada 3000 in May 2001, with their complete integration expected by the end of the year. Royal Cargo was rebranded as Canada 3000 Cargo at this time, and the Royal passenger fleet was painted in either a hybrid livery or the full Canada 3000 livery. Michel LeBlanc, who had taken the position of Canada 3000 vice chairman, left the airline abruptly in July, at the time supposedly over a fairly minor disagreement. However, things were about to get very messy. Canada 3000 publicly announced that it was taking legal action against both LeBlanc and Roland Blais, Royal's chief financial officer. The airline was seeking $40 million for fraud, negligence, breach of contract and conspiracy, with a further $5 million in punitive damages. Canada 3000 alleged that the two had conspired to overstate Royal's pre-tax profit and profit projections by $20.2 million for the third and fourth quarters of fiscal 2001. They claimed it was done in order to entice Canada 3000 to make a move for Royal and to offer the highest possible price for the acquisition. Both LeBlanc and Blais filed countersuits against Canada 3000 for defamation, but in the end none of these cases would make it to court. By August, Canada 3000 had written off around $25 million in Royal assets, with the company CFO Don Kennedy stating that most of the write-downs were in relation to the Royal aircraft fleet as well as the value of their contract with Signature Vacations. He added that they had a number of capital costs that, on amalgamating with us, we just don't feel have any ongoing value. We didn't really have access to the full information about Royal because we didn't actually own them yet, so we didn't do the full valuations of their assets. Due to this, Canada 3000's goodwill had jumped to over $82 million, and the airline had found itself in a bit of a tricky financial situation. It was later reported that come the start of August, Canada 3000 had $82 million in cash, but faced $106 million in liabilities. To put it another way, the airline had taken cash for 26 days worth of tickets, but only had the funds for 20 days of flying. Despite this, Canada 3000 plodded on, as aside from this setback, the airline had been profitable for all but 1 year of its 13-year existence. Things were looking up at Canada 3000. The airline was getting ready to receive its first brand new Airbus A340 and inaugurate the first non-stop service from North America to India. Bookings were strong. On September 10th, the airline had one of its best ever days, selling around 25,000 tickets, but the following day would change all that. September 11th would hit Canada 3000 hard. The airline was grounded for several days due to the closure of the airspace, and its bookings had plummeted. The airline had tried to secure a $75 million rescue loan, however, it came with several strings attached which made it unworkable. With Canada 3000 burning its cash reserves at a rate of $700,000 a day, it tried to close down its Royal division. However, the Labour Union and Industrial Relations Board rejected this. The airline would struggle on for a few more days before ceasing operations on November the 8th. So that was the story of Royal. The next episode will take a closer look at the rise and fall of Canada 3000, so do check back for that one, or better yet, subscribe to catch the episode as soon as it lands. And as always, thanks for watching.